How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Tombstone's Takes. I am Tombstone. I'm a librarian, and I like to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and interesting about books. Today, we've got a monthly wrap-up for August and all the books that I read. Well, at least the fiction that I read during the month of August. And we'll do a little bit of a TBR, to be read, for September. I've got a couple books on there. My list isn't too expansive for the month of September, but I do have some things that are planned and that I need to get to. And maybe I'll also give you a little update on some videos to look forward to in the future. So let's get right to it. I'm going to go through the books that I read in August. I'm not going to go in order of which I read them. I'm just going to talk about them as they come to mind. Maybe give you a couple thoughts that I had on them. Let's start with one of the first ones. I read the book Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. Fledgling's about a vampire. Well, it's about a vampire courtroom drama to find out whether or not certain vampires are bigots or not. There's also a bit of, well, there's a bit of other things going on. It starts with the vampire waking up and not knowing where she is, and she has to go through the mystery of figuring out what happened to her, why her memory is missing, and things of that sort. And then it proceeds on into the vampire courtroom drama. Another book that I read this month is You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen M. Mcmanus. This book was just okay for me. It wasn't a super huge hit. It wasn't a big miss. But part of my problem with it is that now, after reading quite a few Karen M. Mcmanus books, I feel like some of her plots and some of her characters are kind of a paint-by-number kind of scheme. Most of them are the same. The way that she reveals some of her mysteries are kind of the same. And so, although I wasn't quite bored with it, I pretty much knew exactly how it was going to go down from reading her other books. I think that I might rant about one particular thing. It's not just a Karen M. Mcmanus problem. It's a problem about how certain mystery writers reveal or what they do to keep certain mysteries a secret. I'll rant about that in an upcoming video. Just a little pet peeve I have about how certain authors keep mysteries a secret, and we'll get to that, and I'll rant about that for a little bit. But let's move on to the next book. Another book that I read this month, one of my favorite, actually my favorite book that I read this month is Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. That one is the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw. It features the character Jade Daniels from My Heart is a Chainsaw. She returns to Proof Rock in the middle of a big winter storm that just happened to coincide with when the nation's deadliest serial killer escapes custody and makes his way to the town of Proof Rock, and the deaths start happening. And Jay Daniels is there to help solve the situation. There's a lot more bodies that hit the floor right from the beginning of that book. My Heart is a Chainsaw started out a little bit slower. Overall, I loved both of them. Jay Daniels is one of my favorite characters in the past couple years, and I really enjoyed that book. That one happens to be, Don't Fear the Reaper, happens to be a sequel. It's not going to be released till February, but I got the chance to have an arc, and so I took that opportunity and really loved it, and am going to recommend that book quite often right up until its release and after. Another book that I got an arc of that comes out in September on the 20th, I believe. I'll leave the date here, and I'll also put some links up to some of the videos on some of my book reviews on Don't Fear the Reaper, and this next one, Daphne. Sorry, that was probably a little scattered, but I just read Daphne. Comes out on September 20th. It's Josh Malerman, who is the author of Bird Box. Some of you might know, have either read Bird Box or know the Netflix movie with Sandra Bullock. Daphne is about, it's a ghost story. The girls' basketball team is hanging out the night before the Summer League Championship. They're having a sleepover. They talk about this urban legend ghost story about Daphne. All you have to do is think about her, and it will summon her, and she'll slay you. And after the sleepover, people start dying. So what will happen? That one was pretty fun. And if you want a spooky read, some people like to start their spooky reads in September. Man, that's the time. It's the time to get in gear. So this one's coming out. Might as well read it. This one was fun. I give it 3.5 stars. A 3-star book for me is like a 4 or 5-star book for other people. So I had a lot of fun. It's a good, solid book, and I think you'll have some fun. I also did a reread of Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Certain Dark Things. It's a vampire book, Mexican and Aztec vampires. I'm doing it for a reread. I got a request to know about a few more vampire books, because that's been a genre that's been kind of lacking. But there are some lesser known books, and I'm going to do a little book recommendation of maybe 5 or 6 vampire books that bring the bite back to vampires. And I'll tell you the rules for those books as I do that video. So look forward to that video as well. Now, what do I have coming up in September? Right now, I only have 2 reads that I'm going to read for sure in September. One is an arc. It's called The Twyford Code by Janice Hallett. I haven't read the book yet. I'm about to start it tomorrow. But the book is about a gentleman who's been in prison. And when he was younger, he had found a book by a well-known children's author. And in that book, he found what he thinks was a secret code that ran through all of this children's author's books. And he decides that he's going to crack the code. And as he goes about trying to crack the code, we learn a little bit about why he was in prison and what happens next. The book sounds fun to me. All you had to do was say secret code, running through children's books, and I'm there. I haven't started it yet, but I will start that tomorrow or Saturday, or I mean Friday, one of the two. The other one that I have is, for the most part, and some people might have seen my library book sale haul that I just had. I'll leave a link to that too. But when I buy books, because I know that they can't all live in my house can't be a library, and my wife doesn't want to just pick up books hanging around every corner of the house all the time, which she graciously does for me sometimes. But I try and make sure that if it's in the house and I own it, that I read it or will read it soon. And so one of the latest books that I bought is Black Cherry Blues. It's the 3rd installment of the Dave Robacho series by James Lee Burke. James Lee Burke is just a phenomenal prose artist and a great crime author. I've read 2 of his books, because I have this thing where, although most of his books can be read as a standalone because they're in series, I got to read them in order. But I've read a couple of his books from the Dave Robacho series, and I've read some short stories by him. He's just a phenomenal prose artist and a great crime writer. Black Cherry Blues, I guess in this one, the Dave Robacho is reeling from the death of his wife, and he gets caught up with some, as always, he gets caught up with some unsavory types, and they try and pin a murder on him, and he's just not the type of guy that you want to pin a murder on. So we'll see what happens. I guess it moves from Louisiana, where most of the Dave Robacho books take place, up into Montana, and that looks like it'll be a lot of fun. Other than that, I have a couple of open spots. I think this will be fun. I haven't read a fantasy book in a month and a half or 2 months, so I would love to get into some more fantasy. So if you have a suggestion, please leave a suggestion on what I should be reading in the comments, or I might want to do something fun. I think that it would be cool also to do something like maybe go back and start reading all of the World Fantasy Award winners, or maybe all the Hugos or Nebulas, or maybe do something fun like, if you'd ever read Jo Walton's Among Others, in that book, her main character, which apparently was somewhat semi-autobiographical, in that book, she's just always getting fantasy and science fiction books, and she's going to the library, she's going to book groups, and people are giving her books, and there's almost 200 books mentioned. If I did it that way, I might have to make some rules about which books I actually read and which ones I don't, because I think that there would be some on there that I read pretty recently and I wouldn't want to reread them so close together. If it'd been, say, a couple of years, I might have to do it. But I want to do something fun like that. I want to do a read, maybe read along with some other people, jump into something. That'd be pretty cool. One suggestion I did have for a fantasy book, R.F. Kuang, who did the Poppy War and all those other books, has a new title coming out. Actually just came out. It's called Babel. If I can get my hands on that one, I might do that. But if you have any suggestions, let me know. So this has been Tombstone's Takes. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I've been enjoying talking about books with everybody, and that's why I'm here. I like to talk about books. I appreciate you watching. Let's tell me if you read or liked any of the books that I read this month. What'd you think? And stick around, engage in conversation. Have a good day. We'll see you next time.